All right, we should be recording. Um, Charlie, whenever you want to kick this thing off.
All right. Welcome everyone to the 2027 Ride Engineering Competition Kickoff. Thank you all for joining us here today on our live presentation. We're going to tell you what the Ride Engineering Competition is doing this year, and we're excited to have you on board. Some introductions. I am Charlie Wickham, the president of the Ride Engineering Competition. I also work my day job as an engineer auditor with TÜV America. Our treasurer, Robert Anderson, is on a plane right now, on his way to do some amazing work as a controls engineer for Walt Disney World. And I will let Mike and Esteban introduce themselves.
Yeah, hello. I'm Mike. I work as a senior engineering designer with McLaren, now a division of KCI Technologies. I work in their entertainment division, doing all sorts of fun stuff there. And by title, I am the secretary on the board of directors. You'll see me, chiming in an email pretty frequently to you guys throughout the season. I also kind of help coordinate our event weekend as our resident local Hershey resident. So, Esteban, over to you.
Hi, I'm Esteban. I am the chair of the R&D division of the REC. So I was kind of chairing and helping us spearhead the development of this year's prompt and future years and other things that we're cooking up. At my day job, I work for recreation engineering. So we do third-party inspection and engineering services for all sorts of clients all over the industry. Mostly spend a lot of my time in and around roller coasters, doing a lot of my inspections. Yeah, excited to have you all get started with REC this year.
We, of course, do not do this alone. We have to give a shout out to our huge committee and all of our volunteer staff members. Everyone here is a volunteer to help make the ride engineering competition happen. Adam Sleeger, Bridget Cornish, Brianna Price, Chad George, Dallas Hedges, Lillian Cho, Matt Klimek, Melissa Gross, Michael Garner, Natalia Skinner, Nicole Newhouse, Sarah Litto, and Travis Faircloth, and growing. This is by far the largest committee we've ever had, with more involvement across the board from everyone. We have been able to do so many improvements and changes and exciting new things this year with this incredible committee. So thank you to all of our committee members, and let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Welcome to the 2027 Ride Engineering Competition Block Party. This year, teams will design, engineer, and manufacture their own roller coaster from scratch. So why is this year's competition called Block Party? That's because this year, we're turning up the challenge and upping the capacity. That's right. Each team's ride must have multiple ride vehicles on the track, providing at least 2 train operations. To achieve this feat, each team will have to develop a block zone system for their roller coaster.
Saw dudes, I'll take it from here. For those of you who are unfamiliar, a block zone is a section of ride that only one train may occupy. At the end of a block zone is a method to stop a train in case the block zone ahead is still occupied. This is the safety system that prevents roller coaster trains from colliding with one another. This ensures your candy riders make it home safely. Since this is a ride engineering competition, I'm sure there are more requirements, but everyone knows I'm just the block zone man.
Additionally, each coaster must reach a minimum height of 600 millimeters from the loading position, and the layout must include at least 2 hills of 30 millimeters or more of ascent. To allow for the new requirements, teams will have a larger plot of land than ever before. Whether you fly, drive, or time travel to the block party, you all will have to fit your rides into the same portable dimensions before operating your coaster. This will require you to disassemble and reassemble your ride if you choose to utilize the full operational envelope. Teams will follow professional industry practices as they conceptualize their ride, conduct a risk assessment, show compliance to the ASTM F2291 safety standard, perform design reviews, and build calculation reports, drawing packages, and factory acceptance tests. Teams earn points for documentation, rides, and outreach, and the final rides will receive additional points for performance, theming, and site acceptance testing. Teams may lose points for failing their site acceptance tests or failing to justify the costs of their ride. Industry professional judges provide detailed feedback and scores for documentation and final rides and will crown a winner. To enhance the quality of the competition moving forward, the top-performing legacy teams will be promoted into a new, independently scored league, the REC Pro League, while remaining teams will compete in the REC Open League. This will allow for more even competition each year. Additionally, REC will operate on a promotion and relegation system for future years. More on that to come. Registration for the Pro League will begin on September 10th, and open registration will begin on September 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern, with our final event hosted at Hershey Lodge on Saturday, April 10th, 2027. There are 36 spots up for grabs this season, so be sure to register quickly once our open registration begins. Teams will need at least 3 members and a faculty advisor to compete, and may add or replace members throughout the season. Registration will be on our all-new web app, debuting soon. We hope to see you at the block party.
Roller coasters are back. Our 2027 prompt block party will have you building the entire roller coaster yourself. Everything from the ground up will be your design and your engineering. You'll also have to have 2 trains, which means you have to have a functioning block zone system to keep those trains from colliding into each other. A huge shout out to El Toro Ryan for answering our call and joining in, helping out with our kickoff video. He's told you all about block zones, but each one will have an ability to stop the train before it enters the next block zone, and 1 train is allowed in each block zone at a time.
Piggyback off what Charlie said, your ride must contain enough block zones to service at least 2 trains. If you have more, you'll need more block zones. From the loading position, there should be a maximum height of your coaster of 600 millimeters. Additionally, instead of asking for a minimum acceleration, we're going to require you guys to put some hills on your coaster. So we need at least 2 hills that reach 30 millimeters. One 60 millimeter hill doesn't do it. We need 2 different hills. And then most importantly, so that everyone can travel in an equal fairway, we're going to need you guys to disassemble your ride and assemble it at Hershey.
All right, we have returning Jolly Rancher Chew riders from REC 2026. So these are the role of your riders are to ride in your ride. They are not human, so you must factor in their actual weight and dimensions into your design and calculations of your ride. On competition day, we will be providing these riders for you. You must have a throughput of at least 6 riders per minute, and you will be required to switch out your riders every hour on the hour.
All right, as the video kind of mentioned here, we are now going to be operating on a 2-division system. This is the REC Open League and the REC Pro League. Before you get nervous, I know there were comments in the Discord about, oh, they would never do the kind of split that we did in the past. This is not going to be that same system where it's done at the last minute. This is going to be a little bit different. For the Pro League, we're going to be giving the top performers from 2026 a priority access registration window to get into that Pro League. And then we will use past year's standings to fill in the rest of that Pro League. So we'll be debuting what that division split looks like a bit later in the season. That Pro League registration will exist for 1 week. Oh, Charlie, can you go back for a minute there? It'll exist for 1 week. And then we will go into the open division registration. On top of that, the way this new promotion relegation system is going to work is that at the end of the year, the bottom 4 placing teams in the Pro League will be relegated down into open class standing for the following year, and the best 4 teams from the Open League will be promoted into the Pro League. We'll have documentation detailing that a bit more thoroughly to come. All right, moving ahead. As I've mentioned, registration. All of our rules are going to go live today, but registration will not be going live today. We're going to give you guys some time to digest this information prior to needing to sign up. We are going to have the Pro Division registration beginning on September 10th, and that will run for 1 week. And then the Open Division will begin on the 17th, a week later. Those windows will open at 2 p.m. on each of those days. As we noted before, we're going to have a new web app. We will be debuting a video to come on how to do the registration process in that web app. You will need to put a minimum of 3 team members into your team in order to be considered fully registered, and you will need to pay for at least 3 of those team members. No cost increase from last year. We are running again with the $30 per student to be a part of the competition. And you must also have an advisor for your team. One other note on the fees is that we will, as we did last year, have other fees associated with the event weekend. Those will be detailed once we have them finalized. We are also overhauling our waitlist process a little bit. So as I've mentioned, we have this web app that's coming online. Once the app sees 36 confirmed registrations, every team that signs up thereafter will be placed on our waitlist. This will be displayed publicly on the homepage of the web app, so teams know exactly where they stand on our waitlist process. Any team that wishes to remain in the competition should be completing deliverables in time with the competition. The reason for this being that if at any point in time a team drops out for the competition, we will be contacting teams on the waitlist in the order in which they are on said waitlist, and they will have the option to accept a spot in the competition, and then you will have to submit deliverables up to that point in time. Again, we'll have a document detailing this a little bit in full. Another thing we're kind of changing is our dropout process. Moving forward, if you drop out prior to our preliminary design review deliverable, there will be no penalty. Your team can be fully refunded, and that will be that. However, if you drop out at any point after the PDR, your team will automatically be of waitlist status for the following season, and you will not receive a refund. This is important. This is to make sure that we're having teams register who intend to be there for the full competition and gives our organization the best overall experience.
All right, so with all that other admin out of the way, let's talk the 2027 season timeline, and we'll talk deliverables. So as stated before, the Pro Division registration is going to start on September 10th, and then 1 week later we're going to have our Open Division registration on September 17th. After that, because this is a semi-rolling process, as teams trickle in, the deadline's going to shift. But 4 weeks after your team registers is when your project charter is going to be due, which will be sometime in the middle of October, based on when you all get started. For the rest of the 2026 year, there's no other deliverables that'll be due. Your next deadline is going to be your preliminary design review, which is on January 20th. 16th. January 16th is when your PDR is going to be due. At that point is when you just have to have someone externally to your university kind of come in and do a design review. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Next up, mid-February is your functional test video. This is a new deliverable that we'll go into a little bit later. This is going to be due on February 20th, and then followed 1 week later by your Wave 1 submittal, which is all the items of your FDR, your theory of operation, and your risk assessment. Following that, Wave 2, the big one, ASTM, design documents, the FATs, your cost breakdown, your service plan, all these different items are going to be done in Wave 2, which will be due on March 28th. And then for Wave 3, which will be our poster and your video theory of operations, that'll be due on April 3rd. Competition day itself is going to be on April 10th. And then at that point, we'll be evaluating all the items on the actual competition day. So a similar schedule as to previous years, with the addition of a new deliverable. So we can talk 2027 deliverables now. So talking some key updates, as you guys kind of already saw, I saw in the chat, we have a couple new deliverables. First one, the new functional test video deliverable. We'll get into this a little bit later, but pretty much with all the complexity of this year's competition, we wanted to have a checkpoint to make sure that you guys are going to have your system integration with your train and your vehicles, because as it stands, there's going to be quite a lot of complexity in this year's competition. We also have an overhaul of the service plan, which will be structured more similarly to how we structure our FATs and our SATs in previous years, which we'll also discuss a little bit later. We've also replaced the bid as a deliverable with what we call the cost breakdown and justification. And this will also have a little bit more info a little bit down the line in this presentation. But we wanted to do some modification to how that's currently balanced throughout the entirety of the REC. We're also introducing the ASTM F3598 risk assessment standard. This is a newly minted standard that's been going into effect throughout the entire industry. And we wanted to get you all to jump on actually getting started with using this and using the formatting and all, and get some of this experience with this specific ASTM standard. And then other miscellaneous items include the increased operation envelope size, the addition of referees on competition day, clear process for deductions, and various other points and rules adjustments, which will kind of bring us to all the other things that we changed, because if you saw the red lines is what we had throughout the season, there was quite a lot changed in our rulebook. So yeah, so kind of moving forward, design reviews, PDR and FDR, these are structured very similarly to how we've done them in the past, including all the adjustments that we made to this deliverable last year. All you need to do for this deliverable is submit proof of your design reviews, both preliminary and final design review. And at this point, you have to demonstrate that you presented your initial risk assessment, design concept, and all this other thing to someone external to your university or external to your team. Go someone outside. It can be within the university or anything like that, but it just has to be outside of your group that's been doing all these designs. But go outside, have someone critically look at it, tell you what's right, tell you what's wrong. You get all this information that you need to better implement your design changes. And these are going to be graded for completion. They're not evaluated as like, hey, how critical was your feedback? All this other kind of stuff like that. It's in your best interest to get critical feedback, but we're grading for completion. If it's submitted to us and we have this proof, great, marked as complete, no deductions. If it's not submitted, it follows the standard deduction policy. But these are really great utilities for you as your teams to get some external critical feedback and get started on finding some of the issues before you start manufacturing your ride. So it's a really awesome checkpoint for you all to have to make sure that things are working properly. And now the new one, functional test video. So with all the complexity of this year of needing a block zone, a chassis that you design, track that you design, getting to a certain height, all these items that are going to be additional challenges to teams this year, we wanted to make sure that teams have an opportunity to see how these systems integrate together. System integration is always the hardest part. When you have all these things that you're developing, designing, and all these things like that, bringing them all together and seeing if they're actually working together is usually when a lot of the issues tend to come up. So what we have for this deliverable, we want this to be a checkpoint for you to see if these items work together and then give you an opportunity to make those changes as needed, so that we're not finding it out 2 weeks before the competition. So you have to design and fabricate a chassis for at least one of your ride vehicles. You have to design your ride track, and you have to equip the ride vehicle chassis with every part that you need for it to move along the track. So pretty much we need a functional train and a functional track and a way for them to interface. And what you need to do here is submit a video, 30 seconds or less, showing an attempt at making this chassis roll and coast along the track. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fully dialed in. It just has to show an attempt at making this work. And this is going to be due 1 week before the final design review. Just like the PDR and FDR, this is not evaluated for its quality. What this is really just making sure that you understand how your system comes together and see either how well it works together or how well it doesn't work together. So we actually have to see, hey, did we try to make it roll? If it fails, that's fine. Show us in the video. But if it's just a video of the vehicle and a video of and a piece of the track and there's no attempt at making them work, that will not count as being submitted as a deliverable. So the video should be 30 seconds or less. Do not exceed 30 seconds. Greater than 30 seconds will invoke our deduction policy until we get one that's less than 30 seconds. But yeah, just submit that. And then at that point, If you submit it on time, no deduction. It's also not an additional point structure. But if you submit it late or submit it greater than 30 seconds or doesn't do this, that'll induce our standard deduction policy.
The donut chart is back. 1,000 points are up for grabs. Let's introduce each of these deliverables, starting with the systems engineering report. The first deliverable you will create is your project charter. This is due 4 weeks after you begin. It is meant to be the first thing that you do, and so we make you do it first. Here is where you will identify what your team can do. What are the resources you have? What's the scope of work that's being asked of you? Who are the stakeholders you are working with? Who are the members of your team? What is the problem you are trying to solve? And then what research have you done into what similar systems are out there? What might be the solutions that are going to solve that problem? And what are the criteria that you need to meet in order to solve that problem? Next up is your theory of operation. This is the introduction to your ride. You'll go through what is the rider experience when a rider experiences this ride, and then what are the systems and functions that make up this ride. This is a very small document in terms of points, but it's a very powerful one because this is where we will direct all of the judges to learn what the heck is this ride that this specific team built. So this is the best place to include photos, clear guides, concise and well-written sentences explaining what this thing is, what it's trying to do for our riders, and what are the parts that make it up. Next, you have your ASTM F2291 compliance analysis. This is the safety standard for design and engineering of amusement rides and devices used in industry. We will have you demonstrate that your ride is compliant to this real life standard. With that, when you build a ride this small, with riders this small, there are a lot of requirements that make sense for industry that don't really make sense for our competition. So we are also giving you an REC adaptation document that goes through every individual requirement and identifies one that we feel are not necessary for you to meet, or in some cases, some alternative values for you to meet, or things like that. This document has been updated quite a bit this year, so please take a close look at that adaptation document and some of the changes that are in there in terms of what requirements we are looking for in this competition and what we're looking for in your compliance analysis document itself. For that, you will go through each individual requirement in that standard, look at how it's adapted in our adaptation document, if it is, and then include it in your compliance analysis. You'll do that individually for all of the standards. We don't want to see a blanket statement, our track is compliant. We want to see specifics to every single requirement. These ones don't apply, these ones do apply, and here's why we're compliant. Next up, your risk assessment. This is something that is used throughout all kinds of industries, but it's used in a very particular way in the amusement industry, and it's incredibly important in the amusement industry. In this, you will identify the risks associated with harm to your riders and any other humans around the ride. You'll identify hazards, the hazardous situations around those hazards, the hazardous event in which that hazard causes harm. You'll conduct a risk evaluation to see how high is the risk associated with that hazardous event. You'll identify unacceptable risks that are too high in your risk evaluation to be allowed to go on as they are. And for those that are unacceptable, you'll develop a mitigation to those hazardous events. And then look for new sources of risk as a result of the mitigations that you created. That will trigger the cycle again, and when you can complete that cycle for all of your hazards and all of them are appropriately mitigated, then you have completed your risk assessment. New this year, there is an ASTM F3598 standard on risk assessment that provides more detail into the process and the specific uh, means of conducting an ASTM compliant risk assessment. We have historically always based our requirement for the risk assessment in the REC off of the drafts of this standard as it's been in writing for the last couple of years. So it aligns very much with what we've asked of you in the past. Another thing from the past that we can announce already is that, like some previous years, we have been in contact with the company Advantis, who provides professional software for risk assessments in amusement rides specifically. And they have been gracious enough to sponsor the competition and be able to grant access to all 36 of our teams to the Advantis software for this year. Next up, your mechanical and structural design. This is where you will detail all of the mechanical elements and structural elements of your ride. We're looking for not only a description of what is there, but rationale. Why have you made the decisions that you have made? Calculations that back up that those decisions are correct. And then, of course, your mechanical drawing package on the other end. We want you to go through the entire process, fully engineer this ride, and give us all the documentation that we would need to take and build this ride for real, which we're not going to do, just to clarify. But we want to see that level of detail in every one of these sections. Next up, of course, your control system, the other half of your design and all of the functions that that design has. What have you done? Why did you do it? What are the calculations that verify that this is the right system, that it's going to be functional? And then give us the schematics and show us the code that you develop for this ride. We want to see it fully engineered out in full detail.
All right, so let's talk acceptance testing. This is going to be worth a total of 200 points, your factory acceptance test and your site acceptance test. And it is another component that kind of bridges the gap between what you are doing at your universities when you're actually developing a ride and the functional ride that you have that you bring to the event itself. Great. So factory acceptance tests. When we have these, in the rule book, we have 3 different distinctions in your factory acceptance test that you all should be familiar with and know how to use. We have what we call the component tests, we have the full system tests, and we have the SAT plan. So the component tests are pretty much everything that you've been doing at your university as you're developing the ride. And we want those documented because those are tests that you guys are working on as you develop and design and see if anything that's going onto your attraction is actually working. So things like, hey, does this motor we got from Amazon work? Does this gearbox actually function? Do we have to do any additional machining on anything? And is what we machined actually like functional? All these different items that you're doing as you're assembling your ride, developing a ride, and doing all these things like that, those are component tests. We could also even extrapolate that out to your sub-assemblies and other things that you have. Say you have the train working. I mean, the functional test video is practically a factory acceptance test because you're checking to see if your system works, and those are 2 individual subsystems. So those individual things are all going to be documented by you and your teams, just outlining everything that you've worked on to develop your attraction. And within that is also your full system tests. So once your full system is operational, you have a full functioning coaster, and you're running your standard cycles. Your full system tests are going to include any sort of test that you've developed to test the full safety functionality of everything within that system. So all those should also be documented such that you guys are showcasing, hey, this is what we worked on, this is how we know our full system works, and this is how we're able to prove that this is a safe and functional ride. And from that subset of full system tests, you should be developing your SAT plan, which is also an item that you guys are going to be submitting. So with your factory acceptance tests, you're going to be earning a certain amount of points up to the 200 total point maximum. And those points are kind of on hold and not earned until we move on to our site acceptance test, which we'll go to the next slide. And site acceptance testing is the second half of this deliverable. So say your team earned 120 points based on the factory acceptance test that you all have developed as you're working through your ride. When you get to the event day, you've outlined your site acceptance tests in your site acceptance testing plan. Those are the 3 tests that you have determined to outline the full characteristic safety functionality of your ride system. So I'm not going to go into what those tests are. That's up to you to decide. But you're going to have a number of 3 tests, and you're going to showcase to our judges on the event day who are going to evaluate your site acceptance tests. They're going to make sure that the procedure that you wrote, you guys are actually following, and they're going to make sure that the test that you said should happen this way happens in the way that you said it would. So make sure that the test actually completes correctly. So you have your 3 tests. 60% of those points are going to be for following your procedure, and 40% of those points are going to be for correct output of the test. And with that, if test 1 and 2 were perfect and test 3 you didn't know you were testing, so you don't do it and you can't do it, you're going to earn 2/3 of your points from the factory acceptance testing as your earned points for this category. So at that point, you would get 80 points after the 120 that were available to you because you were able to do 2 out of the 3 tests. So you're able to earn your points that you get in your factory acceptance testing, and then you defend them with your site acceptance testing. And if you fully whiff the site acceptance testing, none of the points that you earned in factory acceptance testing are actually earned to your team.
All right, let's talk functional ride. This is going to be a maximum of 200 points you guys can earn with the functional ride. It's going to kind of include all of the deliverables that have to do with the physical attraction you guys are building on competition day. All right, first up is uptime. For those returning teams, this should be pretty familiar to you guys. This is just the percentage of time that your ride is operating within our operational window on competition day. This year, we are upping our operational window to 8 hours instead of 6 hours. And the other new addition this year is we are adding referees. So the biggest distinction between a judge versus a referee is a judge is going to be an industry professional who's going to award you guys points on all the deliverables that you're submitting to us. Whereas a referee is a person on competition day who's going to monitor both you as team members and your rides and assign you deductions accordingly. One of the things a referee can assign deductions for are unsafe behavior. We want to make sure you guys are remaining safe on competition day, whether that's properly wearing PPE in our safety designated zone or when you're servicing your rides, or that's adhering to our operator safety envelope. You can read more about the specifics in the rulebook, but we just really want to make sure you guys are behaving safely. We don't want any incidents. That's pretty much it on uptime. It's a pretty straightforward deliverable. It's just how long your ride is operating and the amount of points you get for it. Service plan reports. As Esteban mentioned earlier, our service plan deliverable got a little overhauled this year. We split it into 2 sections like we did with FATs and SATs. There is a report that you will submit in Wave 3 submissions, and then an in-person demonstration similar to SATs on competition day. The service plan report is pretty much the same thing as the old service plan deliverable. You guys will develop an FMEA for all of the different possible ways that the components on your ride could fail or could have indications of failure or need to be replaced or serviced. And then those indications will produce service procedures that you will report and write down and number and organize in order for on competition day, if something goes wrong, you're prepared to efficiently and safely service your ride to fix the problem and hopefully bring it back up into uptime. On competition day, you will get a chance to demonstrate the quality of your service plan report to judges, whether that's when you react to live malfunctions of your ride or if a judge comes up to you and simulates a malfunction. And very similarly to FATs and SATs, we score the exact same way. You earn points with your service plan report, and then you defend them and earn up to that percentage amount with your service plan demonstration. At the beginning of competition day, judges will be monitoring the venue in the room for teams that are having ride malfunctions, and they will come up to you. You'll describe the problem. This is what's wrong. Point to a service plan and say, this is the plan we're going to enact in order to service our ride, and they will judge you based on that. If towards the end of competition day you haven't had a ride malfunction, Godspeed, great. Then a judge team will come up to you and simulate a problem and say, hey, I read your service plan. They'll choose a random service plan, and then you'll have to enact that plan for them to demonstrate. And then lastly, theming and marketability. On competition day, you will also meet a group of judges that are going to judge the actual physical attraction and marketability of your attraction and how it is to rider experience. You will get points on creativity and uniqueness, and as well as how thorough and complete the theming is throughout your ride, whether it's scenic elements or even just how well it matches the thrill element of your ride.
All right, and our last section of the donut is our team outreach scores. We have 3 deliverables in this section. Your theory of operations video is your chance to do some technical communication and have a little bit of fun. Produce a 5-minute video introducing your ride, what it is, what are the specifications of your ride, and also what's your theme, what's the story, what's going on. These are some of our most fun takeaways from the competition is you get to share this video around and show some people something fun about your ride. You'll also design a poster. We will print out these posters and have them for you at our final competition event. This one is send us any poster and you will get the full points for it. So please take advantage of that opportunity for points and come up with something fun, come up with something technical, whatever speaks to you. Give us a poster to help introduce your ride at the event. And then, of course, your outreach report. This is one of the largest single deliverables in the entire program, and it has nothing to do with any of the technical details about your ride. In addition to doing the engineering and doing the manufacturing of this ride, we want you to make an impact on the community around you. Find opportunities to educate, to inform, to inspire people about technical work, STEM and STEAM education, arts meeting technology, or anything else that helps uplift the community. Tell us about what your team has been able to do during the season and get some amazing points for it. So as Esteban mentioned, we have changed the bid this year. We're changing it to now the cost breakdown and justification. It is no longer scored solely based on your manufacturing costs. It's not just a blind race to the cheapest ride. We want to see how do you defend why you spent the money or the value that you did. So this will use your bill of materials for the rides, whether or not you paid that money or not. If you got an awesome deal and were able to get access to a lot of things for free, that is wonderful for you. We still need you to account for those at their full price because we want to know if you were to build 10 of these rides, how much is it going to cost to do it? So we will have judges looking at how reasonable are your costs, and then how you go about defending your costs. This is, like the bid was before, a strictly deduction category. You will receive a deduction of up to 100 points based on how you individually as a team go about defending your points. It is no longer related to what any other teams do. So we're excited to see not only how some teams can find ways to bring down the cost of their ride and find really interesting solutions to that problem, but also how some teams will fly beyond that and try to defend the high cost of their ride. So we're looking forward to see what you do with this new version. Additionally, the bag and tag is returning in a slightly different form than years past. We have enlarged the operation envelope for your rides this year to give you plenty of space to build your roller coasters. And so we want to give you a little bit more space to transport it, although you will have to pack it for transport no matter how you transport it to the competition. So whether you fly or you drive or you drag it along the ground, we want it to be packed into either two conventional large suitcases or two boxes of those similar dimensions. This, we are hoping, will help level the field between teams who fly and teams who do not fly. And then you'll still have some excitement in the morning on the competition day as you take your rides out of the bag and try to put it all back together to get it ready for the operation day and then run it all day on operation. Yeah. For judging, for those who haven't seen it before, how we do it is we bring in real industry professionals from the amusement industry. We give them your work and we have them provide real feedback. That to us is the most important part of this entire program, is being able to provide you with real detailed feedback about what you've been able to accomplish so far and where you need to go to get it up to a professional standard so that you can be fully prepared to join the industry upon graduation. The rule book is what judges will use to judge your deliverables. So pay very close attention to where the points come from in the rule book. Especially at the bottom of the rule book is a full rubric of all the different sections and where those points are allocated. Pay close attention to that because those are all of the points. That's where they come from. If you're going for a high score, you want to follow where those points will be earned. All the judges, we will direct them to look at your theory of operation. So use that to give them a good introduction to your ride. But then each judge will likely only judge one single section. They will not have seen the 6 to 8 months of development that you've put into your ride. They are seeing this for the very first time, and they are only focusing on the section that they are experienced with in the industry. So don't be afraid to put in extra sort of redundant introductions of, hey, this is what this system is, and here is the context of how it interacts with other parts of the ride, just enough for them to understand, okay, this is why this section is important, and here are its interfaces, and I don't need to read all of the hundreds of pages in the rest of the report to understand what this section is trying to accomplish. The judges will give you numerical scores and write feedback to all of the teams. So we are incredibly grateful to the volunteer judges that we get every year. By having our split leagues this year, we will have different judges in the different leagues. That way, everybody within one league will be judged by the same judge across that one section. So as we occasionally have strict judges, we have less strict judges. All of the teams you're competing with will have the same strict judges and the same more lenient judges judging them as well.
All right. Thanks again to everybody who played along online with our lovely teaser campaign regarding our location for this coming season. As many of you are aware at this point, we are returning to Hershey, Pennsylvania. We will be hosting the event again in the Hershey Lodge using the same ballroom space we were in for this past season. Quick note on the event weekend. You are required to attend the event weekend. Unfortunately, it's not optional. If you plan to be a participant in REC, you must be able to make it to our event weekend in Hershey. Any teams that neglect to attend will basically be considered a dropout and have the same penalties that we had discussed earlier. The event weekend, teams will be expected to arrive Friday during the day on April 9th, followed by our all-day competition for the majority of the day, April 10th. And then the morning of the 11th, we've partnered once again with Hershey Park. We're going to be doing some fun behind-the-scenes tours before the park opens in the morning. More on that to come. After the tours, we will have an opportunity to go hang out and experience all that Hershey Park has to offer as part of their springtime in the park. The park should be open that point in the season. We will be doing a ticket order for that at a later date, so more details on that to come. Moving on. Discord. So as you guys know, for you who participated last year, we started an REC Discord. We have changed that from a 2026 Discord to a permanent REC Discord server. Anybody who competed previously, we've overhauled our past channels. They're now all labeled as alumni channels. And instead, we've created a set of new channels for 2027. For teams who are first-time competitors or returning for the first time in a couple years, once you submit your registration through our web app, you will be sent a link to come join the Discord server. For students who are currently in the server, we ask that you self-select the 2027 student role as soon as that goes live, and that will give you access to the 2027 channels. We just ask that only students who are in the 2027 competition do that. Additionally, we put this announcement out the other day, but we're going to be asking that all students use their full first last name. By full, it can be a nickname, whatever you like to go by. And then in parentheses, add your school at the end and make sure it's a identifier. You know, we have University of Cincinnati and we have Colorado. If you guys all use CU or UC or something like that, it doesn't help us in any way. So we need to make sure that you guys are distinguished in a certain way. And just a friendly reminder on our Discord, please keep it professional. We reserve the right to kick anybody who behaves in a way that is inconsistent with how we operate as an organization. All right. And this we have a flushed out version of the FAQ on our website, but I pulled in some highlights here. As a reminder, it'll be $30 per student for the season, with additional weekend fees to come for those attending in person. We know that a lot of teams might roster 25 people, but they only bring 5 to the event weekend, so those charges will come separately. And then teams will obviously have to pay for their own travel expenses. REC at this time doesn't provide any travel assistance. We don't book your travel for you. We will have a small block of rooms available at the Hershey Lodge. However, there are a ton of hotels in Hershey, so there'll be no shortage of options for places for teams to stay. And as I reiterated before, all teams must attend the event. Cool. All right, I know you guys have learned a lot of information over the last basically hour here, so thanks for bearing with us. This coming week, we are going to host 2 Q&A sessions for everyone to digest the rulebook and then come and bring your questions to us and ask. So it'll be a very open forum. We will be putting out a link on our website in the coming days to join those calls. It'll be just like this over a Zoom session where you can ask your questions. The first will be 8 p.m. Eastern this Tuesday, and then again at 7:30 p.m. Eastern this Thursday. One other note we have is for returning teams, you may have seen the rideengcomp@gmail.com email that we've used in the past. We are migrating systems and we are now officially operating under the info@rideengineeringcompetition.org as part of a new realignment with our nonprofit organization status. I think that covers most things. The last thing I forgot to mention earlier is I will put this reminder out on our Discord, but for any of the pro teams, again, this is going to be the top 5 teams from the West from 2026, and the top 6 due to a scoring error on our end. There will be 6 teams from the East. You 11 combined will get first access into our registration system for the Pro League. So please pass along your team's current contact information, and we'll be reaching out to you guys with a link to our registration. Other than that, I think that wraps us up, right, Charlie?
I wanted to quickly answer the question on 3D printing. I saw it pop up in the chat. In kind of in alignment with what we're doing for the cost justification deliverable. This is all in the rule book, but we're going to have kind of 4 categories of deductions. So 20 points of that deliverable is deductions for 3D printing. And I think it's like if you use 0 to 50 grams, 50 to 200 grams, 200 to 500, then 500 to or 500 or more is kind of like the divisions for that. And based on how much filament you use, it's going to determine, how much of a point deduction you all take. So it's not the $1 per gram anymore, or whatever it was in the past year. It's been adjusted to disincentivize 3D printing as its own separate category. But it's not like as an artificially inflated like price per gram as it has been in past years. But more information can be found in the rulebook.
Yeah, all the rule books and prompts and adaptation documents will be going live today on the website. So take a look at all of that, digest that, come join us next week on Tuesday or Thursday for Q&A sessions. And we cannot wait to see the rides that you create for this year's competition. So thank you all for joining us.
I'm going to chime in and say the documents are actually live now, right now, on our website. So if you go to rideengineeringcompetition.org, up at the top of our webpage, there's a 2027 competition dropdown. There's an info page, which is the one that you guys were seeing with the link to today's call, but there's now a specific link for students where you guys can go in there and get that's where we'll be putting our links to our Q&A sessions, and all the documents are there as well. So great. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hope you're excited. It's been a long time coming. We've been hard at work this summer.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We're really excited to have you all get started with this. It's going to be a really great REC 2027. We're excited for you to see all the changes we made and enjoy the comp.
All right, everyone.
Designing.
Have a great rest of your weekend. Again, we'll be posting a recording of this coming up shortly.
Thanks,
With
everybody.
that, farewell.